Hi guys! So I am still in a little bit of a reading slump, and I figured what better way to try to break out of that than to go back to an old, um, uh, go back to a book that I know I devoured and loved when it first came out, and continue on in the series that I never got the chance to. So So, with this, I decided to go back to the Shatter Me series. The first book is literally called Shatter Me. It's by Tahara Mafi. It came out in 2011, and I bought it upon release. 2011, I believe I was 16 in high school, and I remember going crazy over the book. I remember absolutely loving it. Um, the description for it is: one touch is all it takes. One touch, and Juliet Ferrars can leave a fully grown man gasping for air. One touch, and she can kill. No one knows why Juliet has such incredible power. It feels like a curse, a burden that one person alone could never bear. But the reestablishment sees it as a gift, sees her as an opportunity for a deadly weapon. Juliet has never fought for herself before, but when she's reunited with the one person who ever cared about her, she finds a strength she never knew she had. So I remember absolutely loving Juliet as a character. Her touch causes pain, and there's one guy that seems like he's immune to it, and I think I remember his name being Adam. Um, I don't entirely remember because, like I said, it's last time I read this was in 2011 when it first came out. I did notice that it kind of gained a lot of traction over BookTube and TikTok back when I still had a TikTok. And I remember people being obsessed over Aaron Warner. And from what I recalled of the first book, I thought he was one of the villain characters. I thought he was a bad guy. So I wasn't sure why people were obsessed with him. I never continued in the series because the next one, the second one, what's the second one called? Unravel Me? Unravel Me came out in, let me make sure. Yeah, Unravel Me came out in February of 2013. I was a senior in high school. I had just turned 18, and I was getting ready to do college applications and college tours and figuring out where I was going to school after. And I was also in the middle of taking, I think, either 4 or 5 of my 7 classes were were AP college classes, and then another one was a pharmacy certification class. So I was extremely busy my senior year of high school, and I don't think I read anything for fun at that point. And then once I got into college, I was reading so much for my major that I wasn't really reading for fun during those years. So I never picked back up the series, and that's why I didn't finish it. But everyone was going crazy over it in the last few years that I saw online, and just recently there was a sale on Amazon for the ebook collection. I think it was the 6-story collection, and so I picked it up, and I don't remember if I still have the physical book for Shatter Me with me. All of the books that I kept from when we sold our house and went on the road 10 years ago, well, 9 years ago, almost 10, all of those books are currently stored under the bed because everything that came out of the house and into the RV I'd already read. And so those are under the bed, and currently it's really hard to get to. So I haven't looked at that collection in a while, but I don't see why I would have gotten rid of the first book, considering I remember really loving it. Um, but either way, we are going to start reading it, the Kindle version on my iPad, and also for Shatter Me, the audiobook was available through Libby, so I did snag that. However, our library does not have a copy of the other audiobooks in the series yet on Libby, so I will only be reading Shatter Me immersively with an audiobook and the digital. So I'm on chapter 2, 2% through the audiobook, and one thing I'd like to mention is the audiobook and Shatter Me from the 6 novel collection on the Kindle version don't entirely match up. There are a few extra sentences in the audiobook that kind of leave me a little lost as I'm trying to follow around with my eyeballs. So just a note to that. I don't know which one is more true to the original paperback edition that I have or had. I don't know if I still have. I probably still have, but I'm not going to dig up right now. So just to note, there's a little bit of discrepancy between the audiobook and the Kindle book. Summer is like a slow cooker bringing everything in the world to a boil 1 degree at a time. I hate the heat and the sticky, sweaty mess left behind. I hate the sun, too preoccupied with itself to notice the infinite hours we spend in its presence. The sun is an arrogant thing, always leaving the world behind when it tires of us. The moon is a loyal companion. It never leaves, it's always there, watching steadfast, knowing us in our light and dark moments, changing forever just as we do. Every day it's a different version of itself. Sometimes weak and wan, sometimes strong and full of light. The moon understands what it means to be human, uncertain, alone, cratered by imperfections. So I have gotten I read 5 chapters of Shatter Me last night, and listened to it as well. I am really enjoying it. It's crazy to think about the last time I read this was 15 years ago. I'm dating myself here, but I was a 16-year-old kid, and I think Juliet's 17 in this. So it's bringing back all the nostalgia feels from that time period, from that age. Um, it's just wild. I forgot how it opened up, though. I forgot that she was literally in a mental institution, prison type thing, just for something she had no control over. That her parents literally abandoned her there, and she hasn't had any contact, and she's touch starved, and she hasn't had any contact or talked to another human in 264 days, I think. So almost a year, and I forgot how hard in the beginning she had to grasp to remind herself that she wasn't insane, she wasn't crazy, that she is still a human being in that. I did remember that she didn't really. Okay, none of this is making sense. But yeah, it's beautifully written. I think it still stands the test of time, even though it's been 15 years and it's more YA leaning. Characters are 17 years old, and I'm still really enjoying it, even at my age now, even knowing um, the basic plot of the story after having read it once already. I think it stands the test of time. It's fantastic so far. So Juliet just met Aaron Warner, and I remember her saying she hates him when I read it the first time, and I think back then I focused purely on how Juliet felt about Aaron, and she hated him, and so I hated him too. Just automatically in solidarity with my girl Juliet. But what I didn't realize back then that I saw this time around with the lens of knowing that people on the internet love Aaron, just not knowing why, uh, I missed my first read through. I completely missed that she called him beautiful. So there is a little seed there that's been planted. So it this is why rereads are important, because there are little tidbits and things that you miss the first time around. So I am I'm still really enjoying it. I love that it's been long enough that I don't remember every single little detail, so it's almost like I'm reading it for the first time again, but I'm also not, because I do know like the major overarching plot points. So I will say that definitely, with as much as I've grown as a reader in the last 15 years, and even just grown up, older me appreciates Warner a lot more than teenage me did. And I believe I said it in a wrap up that I'm a sucker for a guy who has to play the villain to protect the one he loves. And Warner did something that Juliet did not like, but in his own way, it was for her protection. And teenage me did not like it. Me now, I can see it. I can see why people like Warner, even though he is, from Juliet's point of view, the villain right now. And yeah, older me likes Warner a lot more than teenage me did. There's one quote where that I want to read, where Juliet's mad at Warner and she tells him to go to hell, and Warner just says, "I'm working on it." And I don't know, something about that. I I love their banter. Um, well, they don't really have banter yet because Juliet doesn't like talking about him, but I love the glimpses of humanity that we see in Warner that Juliet doesn't want to acknowledge. And there is a pull there. She's curious about him despite not wanting to be. Um, so yeah, that's all the updates I have right now. Other than, yeah, older me is seeing it from a whole different lens than teenage me was. I think teenage me was just was kind of agreeing with Juliet on everything. And teenage me did not have the life experience that me does now. So this is why I like rereading. Rereads are great. You get new information that you didn't see before, or your perspective shifts. That's also why I'm hesitant to fully DNF books unless I'm just not vibing with them, because you could read something and it's not the right time for you. I fully believe in right book, wrong time. Um, but you pick it up when it might be more suited to you, and you just, because I remember in college there was one author where I had to read it my freshman year and I had a horrible professor. I hated the book, and then flashback to, a couple years later, and it's same author, different book, and different professor, and I read that author, and then I got so obsessed into the lore behind it, and I went back and reread the first book that I had hated my freshman year with that whole new lens of it and the new background, and I fell in love with it. And so fully believe in right book, wrong time, or rereading things just to see what new perspectives you get, because as you grow, as you change, as you get through new life experiences, your lens definitely changes as you're reading things. Hey, it's been a few days. Just a quick update. I'm halfway through Shatter Me, and I'm still really liking it. I do still like Adam, and I remember why my teenage self liked him. He was the boy who saw Juliet and liked her for the little acts of kindness she did, even though everyone else didn't treat her with the same respect or kindness or any type of regard. Um, Kids actually bullied her, and still, no matter how much they pushed her away and bullied her, she treated them with kindness. So Adam fell for her because of that, and he protected her as much as he could. So I remember why my teenage self liked Adam so much. But there is something, and maybe it's hindsight and knowing more about, the fact that everyone online goes crazy for Warner, so there has to be a reason. I mean, there has to be a reason why it's Warner and not Adam. I just don't know it yet. So maybe it's hindsight, but something about Adam is falling a little flat for me now, 15 years later. I'm more so just curious about Warner. And again, that could just be hindsight. It could be because I know Warner is big in the fandom online and Adam not so much, or at least I haven't heard as much about Adam. So I'm curious to see in the other books. how that goes down, because I know I'm not going to find out after finishing Shatter Me again. Um, but I like Warner. I appreciate him a lot more now than I did as a teenager. I like that he doesn't want to force Juliet into anything. He wants her to want to join his cause and to be by his side. He wants her to want to be there, and I like how patient he is with her. She calls him an oxymoron because she sees like the patient side of him, but yet he's also impatient. So I'm really liking their dynamic, and I think maybe it's something I can only appreciate as my reading tastes have changed as I've grown up and experienced more life. Um, I don't know, but I am really liking that dynamic, and I like that he wants her to claim her power. He doesn't want her to shy away from it. He doesn't want her thinking it's a curse and hating herself over it. He wants her to claim it. And I really, really, really like that aspect of it. So I'm about 90% through Shatter Me right now, and I think Warner is at a point where he's a little delusional. He's being a little too hopeful of Juliet's feelings, and she's just not there. And I see why younger me didn't like that, didn't like him. But older me, Adam's kind of giving me the ick. So I don't know what it is, and maybe a lot of it is hindsight, knowing that the internet goes crazy for Warner over Adam, and I don't really know why or what happens. But there's something with this reread where Adam is just giving me the ick, and I don't trust anyone in this series. I don't trust Juliet, I don't trust Warner, I don't trust Adam, and I don't trust Kenji. Everyone's got their own agendas, and none of us know. So I don't think any of them are reliable narrators right now, and I don't trust anyone. It's the last 10% of the book, and something big happened. They're in a new setting, and I'm getting weird vibes. So I know they're trying to make you comfortable, and I know I'm not going to trust any of it. But it's been really good. It's been so fun seeing the different things that I picked up on from this reread to the original read. So I just finished Shatter Me, and the last 10% really flew by. It definitely ends on a more positive note for Juliet. She feels like she's in a good spot. She can fight back, and love that for her. Me, however, as a reader, I don't know what it is, but I got this really uneasy feeling about the place she ended up in. Like I said, I don't trust anyone that she's around. I don't even know if I trust her as a narrator, really, but I've got a really uneasy feeling about some of the people that she's around, even though she herself feels hope. And I've never read further in the series, so I don't know what's going to happen, but it did leave me excited to see what happens next. So it's been a few days since I read Shatter Me, and I just finished Destroy Me, which is the novella that takes place directly after Shatter Me and before the events of, I think, Unravel Me is the next one. And this is told from Warner's point of view. And okay, I get it. I think if I had read this as a teenager, I probably would have been fully Team Warner too. Yeah, this is told completely from Warner's point of view, and it was so needed. It adds so much depth to his character that Juliet just never gets to see in the first book, and loved it. I really like Warner. I really don't trust Adam. And that's my thoughts. Destroy Me definitely was a necessary bridge, I think, between Shatter Me and the next one. And I'm so glad I read it. I recommend. So I'm currently in the middle of Unravel Me, which is the second book in the Shatter Me series. And I'm on chapter 22. And finally, Kenji just called out Juliet for behaving and feeling and thinking and just being so completely self-centered and so in her own head and not observing anything about the outside world or the other people even in their location, and just being completely all about her and her feelings and wrapped up in her own Juliet and Adam bubble and not really giving a damn about anyone else. And Kenji, it was so harsh, but I applaud the characters that say the hard things that need to be said. And he was saying exactly what I was thinking. I was getting a little tired of Juliet being so wrapped up in Adam that she doesn't care about anything else. And so Kenji called her out on it, and I freaking love Kenji for it. The chapters in Unravel Me so far are pretty short. They're going pretty fast, but like I said, I'm tired of the Adam and Juliet show, and a lot of that is probably because I don't love Adam, not as much as I used to as a teenager, and this next book is definitely proving that I don't love their dynamic. I don't love everything that's going on, and I miss Warner. um, I am enjoying the sequel, and hopefully I'll be enjoying it a little more now that Kenji gave Juliet the talking to there, and hopefully she'll be more of a participant and at least more observant over her surroundings and everything else that's going on instead of just in her own head. I'm on chapter 38 of Unravel Me. I just finished chapter 38 actually. And here I was just reading, being like, oh yeah, the action's picked up. It's great. Juliet's finally not being so self centered. And then something happens. And all I can do is go, what the fuck? Because I can't say any spoilers. I don't want to spoil it, but. What? And, did not see it coming. So, Unravel Me definitely went to a place that I didn't expect it to. And once certain things happened, and trying not to spoil here, but once there was once more of the characters were allowed to kind of shine in the narrative, then I think it really picked up. It was really good, and I was so. Yes, there's a lot of chapters, but they do read really fast. A lot of them, a couple of them were just one-page chapters. So they're really fast-paced. They were really easy to get through, and I'm so curious to see where the rest of it goes. So, thanks for coming along on this journey while I read two books and a novella in the Shatter Me universe. And I'm excited to see where the rest of it goes, but I don't think it'll be in this video. So, but, yeah, thank you. I don't know what else to say. Other than, you know, it's so good, and I can see why the internet goes crazy over it. Part of me is a little sad that, teenage me wasn't able to pick up the series as it was being released and to finish it back then, but the other part of me is glad because I think adult me appreciates it more, and I can just go. I don't have to wait for release days in between the next release. So I'm having a good time.